Hello there, YouTube. So, I'm back again after just a few days, and I thought I would explain why I stopped making videos before we get into any of the more major topics that I want to talk about. So, what was it that made me go away for 5 months? Did I just get fed up? Well, kind of, but also, I did a bit of a cost-benefit analysis of what I was doing on this channel and what it might cost me. Now, I was making videos, which was great. They occasionally got some views. None of them ever really exploded. I got a few thousand views on a few videos, but that's about as much as I ever got. And that was fine. I was happy with that. And yeah, I did have a few people that were supporting me on Patreon. I had, the Discord that was active. It was a nice little community. And honestly, I probably should have kept that going. But the main reason that it fell apart was that I changed my priorities. I was focused on writing my game Sovereign Steel. And that became my biggest focus because the only other way I could have gone with this channel, really, would have been to pivot into either video game content, which I did consider for a bit, or pivot into a more political channel, which would have been far easier, and is probably what I should have done. But, whilst I did want to do that, there was a major thing stopping me. And that was that a year ago, almost directly a year ago, it was the beginning of July, we had an election. And that election led to a massive majority Labour government in this country. Now, Labour are usually considered the left-wing party in this country, but realistically, what has happened in British politics recently is that all the parties have become this mishmash of weird wokeism and vague globalism, all kind of held together. There's very little that actually keeps the different parties apart. They have largely the same policies, which is why the Conservatives have been all but eradicated at this point. They will be lucky if they get more than 50 seats next election. They are predicted that they may get less than 30. This was the biggest party in Britain for most of the last 2 centuries, and they may be reduced to a minor party. That's a big deal. Labour, they have a landslide, but they didn't earn it. They got a landslide victory at the last election because the Conservatives got wiped out. All the Conservative voters either moved to a different party or just stayed home. The Conservatives' vote share dropped by more than half. Labour's vote share actually went down. They got less votes. Well, not vote share, but their vote total. Their vote share went up, but the total of votes went down. They got over 1 million more votes in the previous election when Jeremy Corbyn got one of the worst results Labour had ever had and was leading a tiny minority opposition against a Conservative stonking majority. So that tells you just how much the Conservatives were absolutely hated. Something stuck in my teeth. So yeah, Labour ended up winning the election, but they're not popular. People didn't really want a Labour parliament. They won with a very small minority portion of the vote. Only about 30% of the vote, and the voter turnout was some of the lowest we'd had in years. In decades, in fact. And based on polling, if an election was to happen right now, Reform UK would win with a landslide victory, and no other party would have more than 80 seats. And the official opposition would be the Liberal Democrats, with Labour in third, and the Conservatives in fifth, behind the SNP. So this really does show just how much politics is changing in Britain. The problem is that whilst I say all the major parties in Britain were basically the same thing, with the exception of Reform UK, which really hasn't had a chance to establish itself. What what really separates Labour from the Conservatives is that Labour are so much worse. What stopped me from posting was that in the first 6 months of the Labour Parliament being running the show, they had gone to such an extreme level of two-tier policing and had instituted such strict interpretations of certain laws, like Section 5 of the Public Order Act, which basically lets you arrest someone if they've offended anyone. And it doesn't matter why they're offended. If they're offended by literally anything, you can arrest the person who caused the offence, which means that the police would then have to arrest themselves because I'm offended that they would enforce that law. But, of course, that's not actually going to work. What it effectively is Section 5 of the Public Order Act is an excuse for police to be able to arrest anyone whenever they choose. It is an authoritarian fascist law designed to give undue amounts of power to a corrupt police force. That's what it's there for. It should be immediately repealed. And people have been saying this for so many years. This has been something that has been said by many activists for a long time, and people didn't listen. And it's only recently that these kinds of laws have started to get enforced, and enforced on a large scale. We saw violent criminals getting released from prison early because they needed prison space, and yet protesters who were not violent were being arrested and thrown into prison without any due process, without any kind of trial, sometimes without any proper chain of custody, anything like that happening. They were arrested, they were charged, they were in prison within a few days. No trial, nothing like that. Some people were being arrested and convicted of a public order offence for posting a tweet. This has not just happened once, this has happened dozens of times. It's happening right now, all the time. People are being arrested. People are having police show up at their house, and they are arresting normal people for normal things. There was a retired police officer who was arrested for posting on Twitter, and the post that he made was a critique of someone else making an anti-Semitic post. But the police were so stupid, so incompetent, that they misinterpreted the retired police officer's tweet and thought that he was being anti-Semitic. So they went and arrested him, and the body cam footage showed them fiddling with his wife's underwear and criticising his books as being a bit Brexity. We may as well live in George Orwell's 1984 at this point. Everything's monitored. Everything that's posted could theoretically get you arrested. This video could get me arrested. And that's one of the main reasons I wasn't posting, is it was not worth it. It is not worth it for me to have police show up at my door and start questioning me over this kind of stuff. I'm a disabled man. I would not survive in a prison cell in any way, shape or form. If I was arrested for any Mickey Mouse reason, I would basically die in a prison cell because they couldn't look after me. It's also potentially the only reason that I wouldn't get arrested for a Mickey Mouse thing is that I'd be too fucking expensive to keep. It would cost the taxpayers way too much money to provide me with a cell that would meet my needs. And because they're not allowed to just shoot me in the head, they would have to provide me with a cell that meets my needs. It would be much easier for them to just give me a suspended sentence or house arrest or something like that. And let's face it, I'm a housebound disabled man. I'm already under house arrest of my own doing. That's what my body has done to me. So that's not really doing anything, is it? It's not changing anything. So my main problem was that in order for me to talk about politics, I would have had to have gone against the government. I'd have had to have spoken out against things the government were doing. And I decided, you know what, keep your head down and just ignore it. Because way too many people were being targeted and arrested because they oppose the Labour government's political position. They are effectively arresting their political rivals. That is what they are doing. Tommy Robinson has been in prison for most of the last year. Every time he's out, they find another excuse to bang him back in. He doesn't even have to do anything. They'll just show up and arrest him for nothing. People are arrested for social media posts. People are banned from entering the country if they're foreigners and they've made a social media post. The Labour government even tried to order Elon Musk to be extradited to the UK to stand trial for incitement because he made a tweet. And of course the Americans responded by telling them to fuck off because free speech exists in America. And rightly so. Currently, the Labour government have been quite roundly told off by Donald Trump's administration, criticising them for not upholding standards of free speech. And hopefully that will shock them into actually behaving. But what's really, really made it so that I realise now I can probably speak up is that Labour are very aware that they are losing now. They are losing the public. All of the polls show that Labour are going to get wiped out at the next election. The next election is not until 2029, but they can see the writing on the wall. They know that they're not going to be in power for very long. And not only will they not be in power for very long, there's a very real chance that the backbench Labour MPs will kick Starmer out just with the vote of no confidence because he's that damaging to their brand. And I wouldn't blame them, frankly. Because of that, they're starting to hold back a little. They're not doing the ridiculous two-tier policing to quite the same degree, and they've started to try and appeal to the more moderate perspective. They've started to agree to try and put caps on immigration. They're not actually doing it yet, but they're saying they're going to do it, which is more than they were saying 6 months ago. I do think the election of Donald Trump and the American influence has forced the British government to reconsider the way they're acting, and it's also forced Keir Starmer's hand a little, especially with Nigel Farage effectively breathing down his neck, because Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister unless he dies sometime before 2029. So yeah, that's basically the problem. Was I live in an authoritarian nightmare state, and I was a little apprehensive about openly stating that on YouTube, and it is that. I'm not over-exaggerating. That is exactly what it is. It might not be for me directly right now, but it is for the many, many people who have been arrested for tweeting a critique of the government's immigration policy or on Facebook or Twitter. And suddenly, police are at their door and arresting, handcuffing, and dragging pensioners into the street. That's ridiculous, and that's the kind of thing that was happening here. That is thought crime. That's what that is. So yeah, thankfully it is slowed. It's not stopped, but it's slowed, and it won't last for very long. Even if something was to happen and you got arrested for speaking out against the government now, you would be, you might end up in prison for a short amount of time if the government does really go full authoritarian. But as soon as they're ousted in 2029, you'll get pardoned, because there's no way that would stand for very long. So I can see that this is going to be changed very, very quickly. There's going to be a massive rush to try and meet the right wing of the country. And I'm hoping for that, because one of the things we need to instill in Britain is we need to actually add in a right to free speech. This needs to be added. Because we don't have this. It's something that has never been enshrined in British law. It's never been part of British common law. Free speech doesn't exist in Britain. It never has. And it's about time it did, I think. So, yeah, that's one of the main reasons I wasn't posting. Next video, I'm going to talk about something different, but I want to get that out. Next video, I'm going to try and focus on some other issues. I've been trying to lose weight. I'd like to talk about weight management. I'd like to talk about the issues that have been happening in the gaming industry, especially with the culture war stuff that's been happening. So I will be focusing on politically adjacent topics. There will be a political angle to them, but I'm going to try and build them around my hobbies and interests. So there's going to be a lot of stuff adjacent to gaming, because obviously I play a lot of video games. Maybe adjacent to Booktube or the reading in the publishing industry and the reading communities. And there may be some about the internet in general, and about health and weight loss, because that's a big pressing matter for me at the moment. So yeah, that's what I plan for the future. It's been an interesting couple of months, and I'm glad to be back. And in future, I'll try and stand up to tyranny rather than burying my head in the sand and hoping it'll go away. Because that's effectively what I did, and I don't quite like that. Let's start speaking out again. So until next time, thanks for listening. I'll see you later. Bye.